Good morning, everybody. My name is Uwe Diegel, and I should be talking about quantified self, but I'm going to first talk about something completely different, of course. I'd like to start by telling you a story. I like telling stories. It's the story about a man who went around the moon. In 1968, the Americans decided to send a man into outer space to go around the moon. This is after the Russians sent Yuri Gagarin in space in 1962, after sending a dog. So the American people got a bit jealous. So they said, we will send a man to go around the moon. So in 1968, they sent a shuttle called Apollo 8 into the moon. And one of the astronauts that was on the shuttle wrote an incredible story. He wrote of that special moment when he went around the dark side of the moon. The first person ever to go around the moon. And when he went around the moon, he was looking through the window and he saw something that no one else in the history of the world had seen before. He saw this. He saw our planet floating in outer space. It was so incredibly beautiful. And he was lying there, suspended into space, looking through the window, in absolute silence. Well, nearly. Because as he was lying there in absolute silence, he heard somebody tapping on the window. Like this. And the guy was a little bit nervous, because you can imagine you're in outer space in 1968, and you're looking through the window and you hear a tapping noise. And the guy just couldn't work out what it was. So he started looking for what the sound was. And it took him about 3 or 4 minutes to realize that what he was actually hearing was the sound of his own heartbeat. It takes a special set of circumstances to hear your own heartbeat. I've been making medical devices for 20 years. Over the last 20 years, I've tried everything in a thing called health management. How to actually make people feel better about their health and to take care of their health. Medical history is relatively recent. This is the first photo ever of a taking of a blood pressure. Today, blood pressure is relatively simple. Here you see Professor Vaquez at the Pitié-Salpêtrière. There's Professor Laubry. This photo was taken in 1908. Less than 100 years ago, taking a blood pressure was a medical event. You had an entire team of doctors around you, training. The moment was not banal. It was very photogenic. My colleague Chris Griffith was telling you earlier that all of you can run 100 meters under 10 seconds. This is not really true. I once knew a great man who was part of the team that developed the world's first PC, portable computer. And one of the first tests that they did when they developed the world's first PC was to prove, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that it was physically impossible for any man to run 100 meters under 10 seconds. They took all the physiological data of the human body and they entered it into the computer and they proved it, black on white. Well, actually it was green on black because the old screens of the PC. And they proved that green on black that it was physically impossible to run 100 meters under 10 seconds. A year later, somebody ran 100 meters under 10 seconds at the Olympics. And today, if you can't run 100 meters under 10 seconds, don't even bother running. It's become this accepted standard. Everybody can do it. Well, not everybody, but nearly. Connected health is an accident. Every now and then, something arrives that changes the way that we think. We had the computer arrive, we had electricity arrive, computer arrive, and then we had the internet arrive. Then a few years ago, an accident arrived. Connected health. We were the first company to make a connected healthcare device. But honestly, between you and me, it was an accident. It all started on a magic day. Something magic happened to me in 2008. It was an incredible event. In 2008, I bought my first iPhone. And I distinctly remember it arrived in a little brown box directly from Cupertino. And I remember opening the box, and inside there was this beautiful white box. Even the cellophane around the box was perfectly straight. And I opened it, and inside was nestled this jewel, this. And I knew intuitively, without having to think, that I just had to press this button and that it would work. And it's at that moment that I said to myself, this is cool. I want to make cool stuff. Because for 20 years I'd been making devices for sick people. I've been making blood pressure monitors, glucose monitors. I've been making activity meters, pedometers. I've been making all kinds of things that take the signals of the body, but they were all for sick people. And when I make devices for sick people, the only people who buy them are sick people. Whereas when I make devices for wellness, for health, 100% of the world is concerned by health. So I said to myself, how do I actually make medicine cool? Which is a difficult task. I founded a company called iHealth. I put the office in Cupertino. We're right next to Apple. And I said to myself that for 20 years we've been trying to manage diseases. We manage hypertension. We manage diabetes. We manage exercise. We manage multiple sclerosis. We manage diseases. Whereas what we should be doing is managing people. Because if you look at all of the main diseases that affect Social Security, the 4 biggest expenses for Social Security worldwide are number 1, diabetes, number 2, cardiovascular disease, number 3 is overweight, and number 4 is cancer. Now cancer, unfortunately, I can't do anything about. But the other 3, which are hypertension, diabetes, and overweight, they all walk hand in hand. Let's face it, people who are fat because they eat too much. There's no secret. People who have 91% of people who have diabetes that is an acquired diabetes because of eating habits. People who have hypertension, most of them is because they smoke, they drink, and they're overweight. So diabetes, weight, hypertension all walk hand in hand. So what I wanted to do was to find a way not to manage the diseases specifically, but to manage the actual person. So I said to myself, I need to put all of this in a connected universe using one app here called iHealth My Vitals, where you can see the influence of one pathology on another. You know, every year on the 31st of December, we all, I think everybody in this room, make the same stupid decisions. We all say, this year I'm going to do more exercise. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do sport. I'm going to stop smoking. Everybody makes a stupid decision on the 31st of December. And you know very well, if you think about it, if you analyze it, you know that it's not going to work. Because inevitably, 2 weeks later, you go visit your grandmother, it's a nice new meal, you smoke a few cigarettes, a few glasses of wine, and you forget about your New Year's resolution. But if every day you step on your scale, and you see that when you lose 200 grams, you see your blood pressure drop, you see your glucose levels drop, you see your activity levels go up, you think, hey, this is cool. This is the principle of quantified self. As soon as you start understanding the signals of your body, you start looking at it and you think, oh, that's amazing. Look, you understand the signals of your body and you want to know more. It is Marcel Proust, who was a famous French writer, once wrote that the real voyage of discovery consists not in looking for new landscapes, but in looking at things with new eyes. And this is what we have to learn to do, to look at our health, the way we live, with new eyes. We don't need new material. We need to think about the way that we live. At the end of this year, there's going to be a massive changes coming in what we call the quantified self revolution. In the next year, we all know, I'm told that it's in August, that Apple will launch the iWatch. Today, people equate quantified self with activity trackers. The ones that you can run around, that measure your calories, your steps, how far you walk, They make coffee for you in the morning. They do everything. They're wonderful devices. But they're more seen as gadgets, not as healthcare devices. There's going to be a revolution in this because I was at CES in January in Las Vegas, and there were 50 trackers, 50 manufacturers of trackers that all do the same thing. And everyone promises the moon, and everybody says it's incredible. The problem that we have today is that it's become too easy to develop a product. I come from 20 years of medical culture. I manufacture about 50% of all of the blood pressure monitors sold in Europe. And nowadays, anybody who has a good idea can just go to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, put his idea on Indiegogo, get enough funding to actually make a new device. But these, overnight, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've had hundreds of companies making products who don't have the scientific justification, the background, the marketing know-how. So we are flooded with new gadgets that people don't understand. And a lot of these companies are going to disappear at the end of this year, because as soon as a company such as Apple arrives with the iWatch, they will redefine the category. It's very much like a stool that has 3 legs. If you cut off one leg, the stool is going to fall over. And so there will be a revolution in who's going to actually be selling devices. What I'm thinking, today, in the world, there's 4.3 billion mobile phone users. 90% of the world is covered by a mobile phone signal, and transactions are free. How old are you, sir? Can I ask you how old you are? How old are you? 50. So you've been to the bank before, haven't you? You've been depositing money and stuff. Many young people have never been to the bank because they do everything by internet. But in 1980, when you went to the bank to deposit money or to draw a check, every banking transaction would cost the bank between $5 to $6. That was the physical cost of having a bank teller behind a counter saying, "Good morning, sir, how are you?" Taking the money. Every transaction would cost $5 to $6. Now, today, any bank transaction costs less than 8 cents because it is all done via the internet. And the same enormous cost saving is being reflected in healthcare because transactions are free. You can send data, internet is open, everybody has access to internet. So this is causing a massive revolution in the way that we are managing healthcare. The problem is, today, you're all geeks, all right? You're young, you're trendy, you know about technology, you read about technology. But the average person in the street, this is how he sees connected health. It's super complicated. You have a central console, you have internet, and then you have iPads and servers and devices. And I mean, when you have a chronic disease, be it hypertension, be it multiple sclerosis, be it diabetes, if you have a chronic disease, you are defined by your lifestyle. Anything that makes your life easier, anything that makes it better will work. But if we propose this to people with chronic diseases, it will not work because it's just too complicated for them. So how do we actually make the systems simpler? How do we actually create devices that are intuitive to use? Actually, has anybody here got a 50-cent piece? Or 50, has anybody got a coin? I want to do a magic trick. Anybody have a coin? I promise you, it'll be very quick. I'm going to show you something incredible. Any coin. May I have this coin, sir? See, now this is fantastic. You just gave me, I don't know how much money this is. It's just 2 crowns. And okay, let's say it's 50 cents. You just give me 50 cents, all right? 50 cents is not money. Doesn't matter how much money you earn. 50 cents is not money. You just give me 50 cents without thinking. But if everybody in Prague gives me 50 cents every month, then it becomes really, really interesting. So the future of healthcare, of doing managed healthcare, of doing quantified self, is to make programs and devices that are so cheap, so intuitive, so easy to use that they become a no-brainer. Because nobody thinks about giving away 50 cents. If you start telling people, it's going to cost you 20 euro a month, then people have to think about it. 50 cents? Sorry, you can have your 50 cents back. I don't need it, but thank you very much. So we need to find programs that help people. You see, this is one of my favorite sayings. It says, sometimes the best medication for pain is not medication. We need to make programs that help people, that make people, that change healthcare into a positive act. You know, people will squeal like a stuck pig to spend $50 on a blood pressure monitor. Because when you buy a blood pressure monitor, it's for sickness. You're fat, you have hypertension, you're going to die. So therefore you buy a blood pressure. So it's a negative purchase. But the same people who don't want to spend $50 on a blood pressure monitor are perfectly happy to spend $200 on a cardio frequency meter. Why is this? When you buy a cardio frequency meter, you buy it because you want it. It's for sport. It's for wellness. I'm buying it for me. So if it's a positive purchase, money has no object. So therefore, we need to actually change quantified self, quantified wellness into quantified health to make healthcare attractive to the people who need it the most. This is our new project. I think that it's based on the 50 cents principle. So what I'm developing now is a central control which will accept the signals of any devices, not just my devices, but the devices from Fitbit, from WeThings, from Jawbone, from any device out there. All of my devices have what we call an open API. So they are connectable to any other device or any other software. And then to have really low cost, everything I know about low cost from doing OEM manufacturing, low cost glucometer, ECG, step detectors. Here we have, for instance, an SpO2 monitor, to make devices that are so incredibly cheap and so incredibly attractive that we can move away from what we're doing now. What we're doing now, the entire quantified self industry is based on what we call B2C, business to consumers. The next shift in healthcare is going to be to actually convert quantified self from B2C into B2B. So we can actually offer low-cost solutions for the governments that will take any of the signals of the body and help the people to manage themselves. Quite often in this little industry, I'm faced with from disbelief from doctors. I've been doing medical research for 20 years, cardiovascular research in peripheral arterial disease, and whenever I actually make a new technology and I speak about it to doctors, the general first gut reaction is, no, it's not possible. It's not, if it doesn't exist, it's not real. Picasso said this in the 1960s, everything you can imagine is real. Now, I really believe, I know that whenever I make something, I know it's possible. And you know why I know it's possible? It's because I watch Star Trek. And the fact is, if you can imagine it, it will become a reality. Nowadays, people are not using the possibility of illumination, of intelligence, of talent, of making it all work in the same direction. The fact that we don't know how to make something today does not mean that it's impossible. It just means that we haven't found the way to do it yet. So this is, for me, what Quantified Self is all about. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of iCON.